Shout out to Sauce the Boss, of course, man. Who's in the building, man? Shout out to Sauce the Boss, of course, man. Who's in the building, man?
My fault. The beats is blasting. The beats is beating. We got some shit to unbox because you know we have new decks on the way. Wait, new waves for the play bay. Tell them to go play with their mother.
Stories of what happens to influencers and guest workers in Dubai. So let me tell you what I know.
Recently, the story of OF model Maria Kovalchuk has been going viral.
My fault. The beats is blasting. The beats is beating. We got some shit to unbox because you know we have new decks on the way. Wait, new waves for the play bay. Tell them to go play with their
model
mother.
who allegedly attended an exclusive party in Dubai went missing and was found with a broken spine and other limbs days later on the side of the road. Women for years have been raising the alarm about these parties going on in Dubai. According to them, these modeling agencies will reach out and claim that they have incredible opportunities for them, saying that they'll fly them out to Dubai, they'll pay for all their lodging, all their food, and they'll pay them an extremely high amount of money. They just have to do some things while they're there. One of these things is allegedly a porta potty party, where the rich and elite men from Dubai society pay to urinate and defecate in and on women, and sometimes in their mouths. Other women have claimed that these men just like to beat women. They pay a lot of money to be able to beat the shit out of random women. Other claims seem like they're straight out of the film Hostel, with some women claiming that these men like to hang women on hooks and then brutally beat them while they're strung up in the air. Another thing that I find really disturbing about all of this is the mentality towards women. These men, according to women who have been to these parties, love to degrade women. They like calling them names, they like sexually assaulting them, they beat them, they sexually assault them, they're incredibly rude and misogynistic. And then, of course, you get into stuff like the porta potty events. This stuff is straight out of a horror film, I'm telling you guys. Women who attend these parties can be paid sometimes upwards of $100,000. And I've seen interviews with women claiming that the more vile the act they're asked to perform, the more money they're paid. And once again, like I said, straight out of a horror film, I've even seen clips of women claiming that they were paid or they had seen others being paid to do things with animals and to let animals do things to them. All while these groups of rich and wealthy men from the country stand around rejoicing, pleasuring themselves, filming, taking pictures. I mean, this stuff is straight out of a nightmare, and it really makes me sick to my stomach. Hopefully we're going to get answers in the case of Maria soon, but the authorities in Dubai have already claimed that she suffered an accident. They're claiming that she wandered into an empty construction site, climbed some equipment, and fell to the ground. That's really what they're going with. In my mind, it seems more likely that they're protecting some of the elite members of their society by claiming that, but who am I to judge? I'm just some dude on the internet, right?
There's a whole like superstition based around if you crack an egg and two yolks come out, it's like a sign that you could possibly be having a baby. A baby's in the future or a baby is coming. And the reason why I say this and why I know it's low-key true is because around the time where Abby found out that she was pregnant with Isabella, she kept cracking eggs and she kept telling me, why the fuck do I keep cracking the eggs and two yolks come out every single fucking time, bro? She got like two yolks at least 6 times, bro. Back to back, back to back.
God damn.
And around that time, like I said, she was having
Signs of being pregnant.
Exactly. Let me know if you guys have ever heard about that superstition.
I feel like it's probably just like a coincidence.
Yeah, it could just be a coincidence.
Hopefully it's a coincidence and like no fucking condom that's broken or whatever.
There's a really strange missing persons case happening right now out of Utah. Let's talk about it. This is 21-year-old Elizabeth Green. She was last seen walking to work along a dirt road in Callio, Utah, which is an extremely remote area in northern Snake Valley. Like, there really isn't much out there, and the area she went missing is roughly 3 hours from any major city. Elizabeth had just started a new job at a remote ranch, and she was walking there that day, but never made it, and it's almost like she vanished into thin air. She was reported missing to the police later that day, and they began looking for her right away. Authorities have searched the area around her home and the ranch that she was going to work at, including the route that she would have taken to get there, but no trace of Elizabeth has been found. Police searched the ranch, which has not been publicly named, just one day after after Elizabeth was reported missing, but according to them, they didn't find anything suspicious. The rancher said that she never made it to the ranch that day and that he had no contact with her, so it's left authorities wondering what truly happened to her that day. Police have tried pinging her phone, but they aren't able to get a connection, and they've searched all of her electronic devices, but they've all turned up nothing. There's been no activity on her social media accounts since that day either. Her mom thinks that Elizabeth could have possibly been picked up that day, but she just doesn't know by who. There's also a possibility that she arranged to have someone pick her up, but they didn't show, which could have led to Elizabeth trying to walk through the remote desert by herself. According to her family, she does suffer from some mental health issues and has ran away before, but no matter what, she's always stayed in contact with her family and she's always come back within a day. She would never just up and leave like this. Just based on the circumstances, police believe that she's in immediate danger. Like I mentioned before, Callao is extremely remote and so far away from any major city, so the fact that she just mysteriously disappeared and left behind no trace in a matter of hours is just terrifying. It's now been over a month and Elizabeth is still missing. With the summer weather coming up, we need to find out what really happened to her that day. These are some of her characteristics and what she was last seen wearing. If you have any information about this case, please contact the number on the screen.
This podcast has consumed me since I started it. Law and Crimes Luigi is unlike any other coverage of Luigi Mangioni's case I've ever heard. We all know that December 4th, 2024 was a day that sent shockwaves through corporate America. Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare, was gunned down outside a Manhattan hotel, with Luigi Mangioni being named the #1 suspect just days later. What we haven't heard are the juicy insights from Mangioni's friends and healthcare insiders. The stuff mainstream media has been holding back. Law and Crimes Luigi is the first to give us exclusive access to key commentators on the case, like a prominent health insurance whistleblower who spoke exclusively with Law and Crime when nobody else would and saw Mangioni's closest friends, including RJ Martin, who was his former roommate. Get to know all sides of the case and keep up to date with Law and Crimes Luigi exclusively on Wondery Plus. It's one of my favorite podcasts I've listened to in a long time. Everyone knows Wondery has the best podcasts, but for a better listening experience, try out Wondery Plus and get ad-free listening to enjoy the best true crime podcasts. They have exclusives and early releases like Law and Crimes Luigi. With this, your true crime curiosity will always be wanting more. Listen with www.wondery.com/link/Luigi.
It's his teenage daughter who rang police to say she'd found her dad murdered. I can't imagine making that phone call, let alone when I was an actual child. It was the early hours of the 11th of July 2002. Alyssa McGee called 911 to report her dad was on the floor having been shot. She had no idea who could have done this and the battle that lay ahead. The victim was John Cornelius McGee, known as JC to his friends and family. He was born in Wheeling near Bridgeport, Ohio. Now, he was actually a real hit with the ladies. As you can see, he's very good looking. He was very charismatic and funny. He had several baby mums and his youngest children were Alyssa, Madison, and Shane. I don't actually usually get to meet family members of victims, but I did meet Madison at CrimeCon in London, and she's absolutely stunning. She definitely takes after her dad. She's the reason that I'm covering this case today. She's absolutely desperate to get her dad's case out there. Now, JC wasn't an angel. Although he obviously had some really good qualities, he also had some things that he was less proud of. He struggled with his mental health from time to time, and substances played a role. He was sometimes involved in some unsavory characters at his bar called Johnny Cools. This would ultimately come back to bite him when the bar got raided and everybody got in trouble with the police. JC was kind of backed into a corner and had to become a police informant, which obviously is very frowned upon in the community. This made him super unpopular with a lot of people in the local area, including his own family members. Caused a massive rift in the family, and his nephew Rico ended up being sentenced to life in prison. JC was also in the midst of a custody battle with one of his baby mums. Turned out the final custody hearing was just about to take place when JC was murdered. So JC was living next door to his sister Pearl Foston when this all took place, which is very relevant. On the morning in question, Alyssa, his daughter, woke up to loud noises coming from the living room of their home. She found her dad on the floor in a pool of his own blood, having been shot in the head. I cannot imagine how horrific that must have been. The front door was open slightly, which was unusual because usually JC double locked the door. Alyssa made the 911 call at 6:40 a.m. and another call actually came into police just a few minutes after. This was a call regarding the house next door, Pearl's house. JC's nephew Omar, which was Pearl's son, had rung 911 to say that somebody had broken into their house and tied up his mum and his girlfriend. But the call was strange for a number of reasons, and I go into this in a lot more detail on my podcast episode of this case. Check out the Bourne investigation for the deep dive, but essentially it just didn't feel like a normal 911 call. So when police got to Omar and Pearl's house, they found that the intruders had left the women pretty much unharmed. The occupants' stories changed as well a few times, and they said it had been a group of men who'd ransacked the house and tied them up and threatened them with G's. They'd interestingly heard one referred to as Tone. Omar said he'd been able to free himself and run to a shop to make the 911 call. Police then went next door to find JC murdered on the floor. The door had clearly been kicked in, but there hadn't really been any evidence of an actual burglary. Nothing had been taken. Frustratingly, police really barely collected any evidence. There are obviously a lot of suspicious people in this case just due to the close-knit community and how many enemies JC had honestly made due to being a police informant. We've got the custody battle that was going on. We've got his baby mum having a partner that didn't particularly like JC. We've obviously also got a massive rift in the family and loads of family members that didn't particularly like JC anymore. Madison has literally made it her life's goal to get answers for her dad. This case is still unsolved, and I go into a massive deep dive on my podcast, The Bourne Investigation.
The girl you just saw in that video was 20-year-old Maria Kovalchuk. And recently, Maria went missing in Dubai for a week and was found days later on a roadside in Dubai with a broken spine and other broken limbs. So Maria is an OF model. And a lot of people have spoken out after this, saying that they believe that Maria was invited to an elite party in Dubai. There have been lots of women that have shared their stories about these parties online, and they are incredibly disturbing stories, to say the least. The most disturbing of these parties are called porta potty parties. And essentially, women are flown into the country from all across the world. They are paid exorbitant amounts of money, and these very rich men, the elite members of society in the UAE, are allowed to defecate and urinate on these women, in these women, and even in their mouths. Other women who have witnessed some of these parties and attended them claim that girls are sometimes strung up on meat hooks, literally like something out of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And they claim that then the women are beaten while they're hanging on the hook for the gratification of the abuser. Before she went missing, Maria told her mother that she had been staying with two men that were involved in the modeling business. But according to officials in Dubai, they claim that Maria stumbled into an empty construction site and somehow fell from a piece of construction equipment, which we all obviously know is not true. I'm going to go into these parties in more detail on another post, but this is so disturbing. And it goes to show time and time again that these people, these elite members of society, they can really buy or have anything in the world. If they want to have a porta potty party, they can pay for one and they can have one. And they're always above the law. I mean, activities like that would definitely be highly illegal in the UAE. And yet we hear stories of these things happening all the time. And these stories are literally straight out of horror movies like Hostel. If you want to follow along on my journey to expose pedophile rings and predators just like these people, I host a podcast and YouTube show called The Conspiracy Files, which is available on all streaming platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
There was a video that went viral on TikTok of this lady explaining how she saw gnomes in Utah, but she describes them as like a duende because she says that her husband told her that they like shiny things, they like little soccer balls, they like to play around.
My husband and my son, he's 12, they have noticed that there has been, I'm going to sound freaking crazy for saying this, there's a weird little gnome in our backyard that just apparently runs back and forth and up the things. And I'm like, I have not seen this. It is weird. And apparently this is not new. I call it a gnome. I don't really know what it's called. It's like a little person and they've seen it like a few times. I'm not, I guess, apparently in tune to see it. So I haven't seen it. We have decided to put out like some pennies, like little shiny pennies for them, and like a tiny little basketball to see if they'll move it or if they'll like Love it.
She gave an update after that video, and then the pennies were like stacked up with like a little rock on top of the pennies. The crazy thing is, right, her account is gone now. And the only reason why I kind of believe this is only because why would you delete a video that's going viral if it's going to make you money? If you see it as a way to blow up, get clout, get money, you can literally get mad money off that video. And just that whole series of making duende videos.
RJ Martin could never guess that one of his roomies would be detained for allegedly carrying out one of the biggest crimes in modern history. Martin saw his roommate as kind, intelligent, and even saw him as a friend. His name was Luigi Mangione, a 20-something-year-old recent graduate from UPenn with a passion for life working a remote tech job. He was a leader and committed to self-development. He started a book club, climbed, did yoga, and made great friends. Everything seemed to be perfect except one thing. Mangione suffered from severe back pain that prevented him from participating in some basic everyday things. RJ Martin gets into the details in the breakthrough podcast Law and Crime Luigi, hosted by Jesse Weber. The podcast goes deep into the story, not just the crime itself, and covers angles and stories that mainstream media has been holding back. Like the radicalization of online spaces, the fall from corporate corruption. It's not just a true crime story, it's about how Luigi has changed our society. You will hear from whistleblower friends, experts, and more. This podcast is the place I go for all things Luigi Mangione. If you're into true crime, you need this podcast. And if you're not on Wondery Plus yet, you're seriously missing out. Seriously, this is the premium true crime experience, and Law and Crimes Luigi is the crown jewel. Start listening now at www.wondery.com/link/Luigi. Trust me, once you start listening, you won't be able to stop.
This is Luna County Deputy Paul Garcia. On November 11th, 2023, he recklessly killed this beautiful little baby boy, 14-month-old Wyatt James. This is his story. On November 11th of last year, Deputy Paul Garcia was responding to an active burglary call in Deming, New Mexico. Dashcam video shows Paul and another officer recklessly going upwards of 130 miles per hour on Highway 11. And during that call, Paul crashed into a car. Inside that car was Isabella and her 14-month-old beautiful baby, Wyatt. Isabella was knocked unconscious and suffered severe injuries, and when she woke up, she couldn't breathe, yet she was trying to ask where her baby was. The dashcam video that was released is incredibly disturbing because it shows responding officers trying to save baby Wyatt's life and performing CPR on his body outside of the car. But sadly, he was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. He died of blunt trauma directly as a result from Deputy Paul Garcia driving recklessly. What has come to light during this investigation, though, is just horrible. Paul had a criminal history prior to joining the Luna County Sheriff's Office. In 2015, he was charged with an aggravated DWI and 3 counts of child abuse. This all stemmed from him driving drunk with 3 people under the age of 18 in his car. According to reports, while he was being arrested for that, he willingly admitted to having another DWI prior to that in Texas. So in total, Paul had 2 DWIs in 2015, and then just a year later went on to become a deputy with the Luna County Sheriff's Office. The fact that he wasn't screened or vetted before being hired or sworn in as an officer is incredibly alarming, and everyone needs to know this. Paul has since been charged with homicide by vehicle, and Isabella has filed a civil case against him and the Luna County commissioners. But as of right now, literally as I'm making this video, justice has not been served. A preliminary hearing was supposed to take place on May 16th, but Paul had it waived and a new date has not been set yet. And to make matters worse, this is a statement from the Luna County Sheriff's Office. He's been put on a paid leave for killing an innocent baby. According to the department's policy, officers who are responding to a call with their lights and sirens on can't legally go more than 20 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. That day, when he crashed into Isabella, he was going 99 miles per hour. The speed limit was 55, yet it's like he's getting a slap on the wrist for breaking the law and taking an innocent life, a baby's life. I know I'm not the only one that feels this way, but the Luna County Sheriff's Office was negligent for hiring him. Deputy Paul Garcia was reckless. He endangered an entire community and needs to be held accountable. And it's just like what this retired officer said. It doesn't do you any good if you're responding to a hot call, if your driving is so reckless that you're involved in a crash and don't get there. He reportedly hasn't even apologized to Isabella for what happened that day. And according to her, she's even received threats from his family and friends telling her to be careful what she says. Her voice and Wyatt's story cannot be silenced. Isabella is here on TikTok telling her baby's story, fighting for justice. Please go follow her and show her some support. I'm going to leave you with a video of her and Wyatt's dad, William. Please listen and share their story.
It's not fair. This Luna County officer gets to go home to his son Meanwhile, if I want to see mine, I have to go to the cemetery. I visit Wyatt often, and I usually go when they're about to close so I can read him his bedtime stories just like before.
The worst feeling in the world when you hug your child for the last time and they're ice cold. My first and only son was taken from our family because of a reckless and dangerous driver. Only 2 months after his first birthday. He didn't even make it to his second Christmas.
I've chickened out of doing this case so often because I honestly felt like I couldn't handle it. But more people need to know about this because it's quite honestly one of the most sickening cases in the UK. It was Christmas Eve 2008 in Newry, County Down in Belfast. A lovely 81-year-old lady called Mary Rankin lived alone. Now, she was a very proud lady. She always took great care in her appearance, and even though she was getting sort of more and more weak and vulnerable, she still wanted to maintain her independence. Her friends and family really tried to rally round and look after her, even though she was quite a proud lady. She was a very religious lady, and she was just like, I've got my faith and I'm gonna get through this. Unfortunately, as Christmas was approaching, she was starting to feel more and more unwell. Her family were kind of popping in and out to make sure that she was okay and just constantly checking in on her via telephone. One of her daughters actually gave her a ring on Christmas Eve via the phone at 10:38 p.m. She was pleased to hear that her mum actually seemed in quite good spirits, and her mum was really looking forward to spending the day on Christmas Day with her family. But her daughter could never imagine that her mum wouldn't even make it to the family celebrations. She would be found dead the following morning. Mary's other daughter tried to ring her the following day to say Happy Christmas and just to firm up the plans for the day. However, she got no answer and she was kind of like ringing and ringing at intervals. Maybe she was in the shower or maybe she was making some food. She ended up getting really concerned about her mum, and her husband ended up driving over to Mary's house just to check on her. He got no reply after knocking on the door, so he had to let himself in with his own key. Inside, he noticed items scattered all across the floor, like there had been some kind of struggle. Ornaments had been pushed over, and when he entered the bedroom, he was absolutely heartbroken. Mary was lying deceased on the floor. She had no clothes on, but a throw covering the latter half of her body. Now, he obviously immediately called for emergency services, and the medical officer determined she had died at least 4 hours prior. She'd clearly been a victim of a horrific attack. She'd had repeated blows to the face. Interestingly, she also had 16 fractured ribs, and it almost seemed as if somebody had tried to perform CPR on her. But none of the family members had done this, and neither had the paramedics. She also disturbingly had imprints of a crucifix on her face. DNA was taken from the scene, and a neighbour came forward to provide an eyewitness statement to police that would prove vital. At around 7:25 a.m. on Christmas morning, he had seen a local woman sat on the wall outside, and he provided a description of her. Police went round to local homes questioning people and came across a woman who matched this description. This was Karen Walsh, a mother from the area, and interestingly, she said something very telling when police asked her about the case. Now, bear in mind, the police had told nobody any details about this woman's death. Karen asked if she'd been beaten to death. Then Karen started telling them a strange story of how she'd popped over to Mary's house with a gift of vodka and stayed up chatting to her for a bit. Now, this little lady didn't drink. She was very strictly religious and she just never got drunk at all. Why would she have a gift of vodka for her? Karen said after she talked to her and given her this gift, she'd then gone home, gone to bed, and not woken up until 11 a.m. But this didn't match what the eyewitness saw. Also, police found that bottle of vodka at Mary's house, and a lot of it had been drank. It was certainly not Mary that did this. It turned out what had actually happened was that Karen and her husband had been drinking on Christmas Eve. Karen had then gone round to Mary's with a bottle of vodka, and it's not clear whether the bottle of vodka was actually a gift for potentially another neighbour, and Karen had just ended up going round to drop it at Mary's just while she waited for the neighbour to get back. But essentially, she took this vodka bottle round to Mary's, and it's believed that after speaking for a little while, an argument broke out between the pair. Mary had apparently told her to go back home to her family on Christmas Eve, and Karen took a dislike to this. Karen then brutally attacked her, even using Mary's own crucifix from off the wall. Karen went to trial, and it was kind of contested as to whether there was some sort of SA that had gone on in this attack. Mary had got bruising in the downstairs area, and some experts said that that could have potentially happened in the struggle and she kind of got hit by a piece of furniture or something. Others questioned whether Karen had actually SA'd her herself to try and make it look like this was an S-motivated attack and almost to throw police off the scent. Honestly, I don't know if she is that clever, but Karen was ultimately found guilty of murder and given life in prison.
However, coined the phrase, "You can't make this stuff up," might have known the story of real-life boogeyman, Albert Fish. A slight, elderly man with grey hair, no one suspected the kindly single father of being sadistic child murderer and cannibal.
Have you ever wondered how accurate progression photos are? Progression photos are what detectives use on people that went missing years and years ago to kind of guess what they would look like today. So I'm going to show you some photos of missing children, what their progression photo looked like, and what they actually looked like when they were found. And if you're new to my page, I do all sorts of true crime and ghost stories, so make sure you're following along. So here's the first one. Here's two kids that went missing when they were children. And here's what detectives guessed they would look like as they got older. But here's what they actually look like when they were found. As you can tell, like the hair color is wrong. General face shape is kind of right. I guess on the little boy, it's more accurate, but these look like pretty much completely different people. So here's another one. Here's a baby that went missing. And this is what detectives thought he might look like when he got older. And granted, it's so hard to do this on babies. As you can tell, he doesn't really look anything like what his progression photo looked like when he was eventually found. But this little girl below has some similar features to what they thought she would look like as she got older. I'm so happy that this group of kids got found, but it's also proof that you need to find kids as quickly as possible because they just start looking so different so quickly.
This tenant lived in a luxury home for a year and a half for free and insists that the landlord pay her $100,000. Elizabeth Horstron rented this stunning Airbnb guest house in LA that's worth $3.5 million, but decided to overstay without paying. She says she has a right to be there, but everyone seems pretty upset about this entire situation. Elizabeth's been staying since September 2021, but the agreement was that she stay for 6 months, so instead she asked the landlord to pay her $100,000 so that she can relocate. A judge ruled that the landlord has no legal reason to evict Elizabeth from the home due to the city's rent laws, which absolutely sucks. And then Elizabeth's attorney argued that she wasn't required to pay rent because the home had never been officially approved by the city for someone to live there. And she also claimed that the shower was built without a permit. Elizabeth has made it very difficult for the landlord to enter his own house, and he even offered to pay for her hotel stay, which she declined. He called Elizabeth a tenant from hell, and he filed a lawsuit to evict her, and finally she was forced out of the home this month. So my question to you guys is, do you think Elizabeth's reasoning was valid, or is she out of her mind?
Imagine being so scared of police that you freeze to death. Brandon Bushman was a 34-year-old man living in Minnesota. On June the 26th, 2023, something horrific was revealed. Police responded to a call asking them to attend a property that hadn't been lived in since around February 2023. Just after 3:30 p.m., police found Brandon's body inside of a chest freezer in the property. Now, witnesses had seen police in the local area and spotted Brandon run from the upstairs of the house. It's believed that he had a warrant outstanding for his arrest, and it's believed he was trying to evade police. In doing so, he ran to the freezer of the property, presumably hoping to hide there for a short amount of time. However, after climbing into the basement freezer by choice, tragically, due to it being an older model of freezer, it had no facility to be opened from the inside. It had a latching mechanism on the outside of the freezer only. Tragically, Brandon was trapped. He couldn't escape the freezer. He was found deceased, and the autopsy showed no evidence of him having any prior injuries or trauma to his body.
I served my customers human flesh burgers in my restaurant. My name is Joe Metney, also known as the Cannibal. I killed and dismembered about 10 women, turning them into hamburgers. It all began in 1995. I was searching for my son, whose custody had been taken away by my ex-wife a year earlier. Under a bridge in Baltimore, I encountered 2 homeless individuals who were using drugs with my ex. Enraged, I killed them with an axe. I also killed a fisherman, fearing he might be a witness, then disposed of the 3 bodies in the river nearby. A few months later, I came across 2 prostitutes. Like a butcher, I turned them into meat, which I stored in Tupperware containers placed in the freezer. The remains were buried in small graves I had dug in the woods. In the following weeks, I sold human meat hamburgers on the side of the road from a trailer. Since the taste of human flesh is very similar to that of pork, no one could tell the difference. Whenever I ran out of meat, I sought new victims among the homeless and prostitutes, luring them with promises of drugs or easy money to create my horrifying recipe of human meat. It was in 1996 that I was convicted and sentenced, and on August 5th, 2017, I died in prison.
I keep seeing a lot of online discourse about the new Netflix Jeffrey Dahmer show and if it's actually exploitative, so let's take a little deeper look. Recently, it came out that one of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims' siblings learned that the show was coming out when everyone else did. Her name's Rita Isbell, and her brother was Errol Lindsay, and they use her likeness and name in the show pretty explicitly. Rita was known pretty publicly at the time for her outburst during the Jeffrey Dahmer trial, and you can see here, the show makes no bones about using her exact likeness and outburst to profit, and Rita is not partaking in any of the profit shares of this show. Personally, and this is just me, I also think the show makes a very specific choice by casting Evan Peters as Jeffrey Dahmer. Evan has a really specific online fan base of young girls who idolize the psychotic characters he plays. So it's not shocking to me that people are watching this show and tweeting insanities like this. The show is #1 on Netflix right now, meaning it's one of the most watched shows in the whole world. So I can't imagine being a victim's family member because it's everywhere. And though both Evan Peters and the show's creator Ryan Murphy have come out and said that they didn't want the show to be about Jeffrey Dahmer, they wanted it to be about the victims, there's not really a lot being done right now for the victims or their families. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments if you've seen it.
You'll never know my name, but I scared the hell out of California in the late 60s with a wave of enigmatic murders. Known as the Zodiac Killer, I was responsible for no less than 37 serial murders between the late 60s and early 70s. This nickname refers to the logo of the Zodiac watch brand, similar to the symbol I used to sign my murders, a target site in a Celtic cross. I was active in Northern California and used to attack young couples in their cars at night in isolated locations. I killed several of my victims with a pistol and coldly murdered a couple, Cecilia Shepard and Brian Hartnell, by stabbing them several times. It was a night in September 1969, the 27th to be precise. Wearing a balaclava and my fetish symbol, I approached them and threatened them with a gun. I asked Cecilia to tie up her husband, then tied him up in turn. Afterwards, I had a long talk with them, announcing that I was about to stab them, which I did, stabbing Brian 8 times and Cecilia 10 times. I then carved the following inscriptions on Brian's car door with a knife. For several years, I sent letters to the local press containing messages encrypted with strange symbols, all of which have been deciphered to date. The latest was by a French cryptologist who claims that I am Lawrence Kane, one of the known suspects in the case, now deceased. I have inspired several books and a multitude of films and TV series. Today, the mystery of my identity remains inexplicable.
In the building. Sauce, the boss in the building.
What are you talking about? Really being held captive. Okay? It is a hostage.
Sauce the boss, yo, Sauce the boss, of course.
My fault, the beats is blasting. The beats is beating. We got some shit to unbox because you know we have new decks on the way. Wait, new waves for the play bay. tell them to go play with their mother.